You're very welcome to another edition of the Weekend Mix. This week, I have a very special guest. Most people know him as KingPallas. His friends know him as Patrick O'Brien, and I know him as my brother Pa. Patrick, you're very welcome.
Hello, Damien. How are you getting on?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Patrick, I want to go back to your early days, growing up in Pallaskinry, of course. School, what was school like for you and home life? And basically, what introduced you into music?
School was fine. I guess for me, I always had a really, really bad stammer growing up. And so I didn't really enjoy school for that reason because of the fact that anyone, or not that anyone, but the teacher might say, Patrick, read out that thing in Irish there. And I'd just always be embarrassed because I could potentially stutter. And then home was lovely. Home is lovely. Home is a very nice thing. So school wasn't my favorite thing because of stammering, and then home was generally a nice place because I wouldn't stammer there because I wouldn't be stressed.
Okay, okay. And was music something that you fell for at an early age, or what brought you into that path?
I always loved music. I always wanted to be a cartoonist, I think, growing up. That's what I wanted to be. And then I loved music, but once again, because of the stammer, I was afraid to do music because I was afraid to try anything that I had never really done before. And so the fact that in my mind, if I was going to learn a music, I'd have to go learn in a big room with loads of people and they'd be better than me. So I just wouldn't do it. And so music was something I love listening to music, and ye always had music playing, yourself and Karen, and Dad would always have show bands playing, and so there was always music in the house, which is cool. But I suppose then as I grew up, then I kind of heard other music, and that's kind of what I got into.
Okay. And was the guitar always your first choice of instrument to play, or decided to play anything else, or was it always going to be guitar?
I never really thought of it, to be very honest with you. My earliest memory of my two earliest memories of a musical instrument was one thing up on a summer holiday in Mayo at our cousin Tony's house, and he handed me a banjo when I was maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8, possibly younger, and I was just dragging it around by the neck for the whole week and just hitting it, and couldn't understand why everyone was very, very stressed out about me pulling this banjo around the house, and it turned out it was worth a few thousand pounds at the time, but I was happily dragging it around the place. And then the second was, I think you were going to learn guitar, and there was always a guitar in the room that you were going to learn, and I don't think you ever did, but I was like, that's class. I like this thing. And then when I went to secondary school, there was a French teacher called Billy Sinden, or Mr. Sinden, I called him. And Mr. Sinden was given private guitar lessons on his free classes. And so I asked him, could I do one? And then I thought about it, and I said, no, I won't do it. And then I did it because I was bribed to come out of maths once a week, because I hated maths more than anything. And I think I got out of maths for 2 weeks, and then I was back on to do maths because I was probably needed a bit more work on the maths and the music. And then from there, it was just there. Like the guitar was like this brilliant thing, and that I just loved because it was just very relaxing and very enjoyable and challenging, and I just loved it. It was a great thing, the best thing I ever did, I think.
Well, I'm glad you told me that now, because I've always wondered who shook the cobwebs off my guitar. I'm glad to know it was you that that shook the cobwebs off it. Of course, in secondary school, then of course you joined up with some of your mates. And
pretty much a few of my friends, we all loved music and we loved films. We didn't like sport, really. Sport was not our thing. And then I picked up the guitar first, and then the other lads started picking up the guitars and bass guitars and drums, and then that became our sport. And it was kind of that was our thing then. And it was really cool because we were really competitive with each other, trying to get learn the Oasis song or learn whatever song it was at the time. And then we formed a band called Shade of Grey. And then when we left school, two of us from that band joined another band called Decato. And then that was that, and that did that for a couple of years, and then went off and did more music again. So it's kind of all
so
leads to. music.
So what's that like then, Pat, when you have a band, like you said you had Shades of Grey, and then you see it kind of slipping away, and then you kind of have to go away and form another band. Is that disheartening, or is it just a progression in music?
Well, I think when you're, 16, 17 or 18, and it's your first band, you think it's, the band, that you're going to be together forever, and it's going to be the best thing forever, and you're going to conquer the world. And but just, for various reasons, people don't keep it up or whatever. And
Mm.
at the time when it falls apart, yeah, you're quite disappointed, you're quite angry, maybe you're quite relieved because maybe you weren't that into it as well. But kind of think the older you get with being in music, you just kind of go, yeah. Sometimes you're in bands and bands break up. That's a big thing that people have different opinions, and I've often been in a room and listened to people talk about either politics or sport, and they could both be talking about the exact same thing but have the wildest different opinions. I think music is the exact same because everyone's got an opinion on what's good and what's not good. I mean, like what makes Beyonce better than some person that is down in local village playing. They're both musicians. They both play songs. They both just one more people know more of. That's
Oh,
it.
okay, okay. And then, of course, going through secondary school, had you a plan in your head for what you wanted to do after school?
Not a clue. Not a clue, to be honest with you. I just I wanted an easy life. That's all I wanted. Really not a clue, to be honest with you. I mean, like music was, to be very honest with you, the idea of working in music or that being my job was definitely not an option, because as far as I was concerned, or as far as I was led to believe, music was not a way that you could earn a living. It wasn't a good way to be, and you needed to have something more real, because music
Okay.
wasn't didn't have the ground wouldn't be too strong to stand on,
Of
maybe.
course, yeah, and of course, when we were growing up together, you always had to have that piece of paper in your hand to a qualification behind you before you went anywhere. So, of course, you went on
Oh.
and you did your trade as an electrician.
Hmm. Yeah, so pretty much age 17, started being an electrician, and I knew day one I hated it. I knew day one I never wanted to be an electrician, and then I spent the next 10 or so years of my life as an electrician, and did all that, and but always playing music in bands, and so I was kind of like this electrician who played music, but anyone who I worked with didn't know I played music because I didn't tell them, and it was kind of like this kind of secret that I kept for myself. I didn't want them knowing about it, so I just yeah, I worked as an electrician begrudgingly, and then very happily played music in my private life.
Okay. You done a few years as an electrician, and when did the penny drop to you that you needed to go back to school? You wanted to qualify something in music.
To be very honest with you, I've answered that question a lot in my work that I do now. I knew day one I didn't want to be an electrician. I knew day one. I mean, obviously, it's a great trade. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not for me. Um, it yeah, it wasn't for me. But I thought that I had to finish it because I guess I was 17 starting. I was still quite young, and I would have been very kind of. I suppose I would have maybe not too much had a very kind of mind of my own, almost kind of going, right, this is what I have to do, and I have to do this, and I have to follow this way to go to there, and I have to get to there.
Mm.
And I know now that's not the case. There are many ways to get where you want to be. And then I suppose for years then I was kind of trying to figure out what to do, and then I started a job as a community musician, which I didn't even know I was when I started it. I just thought I was teaching music, and I didn't even know why I was teaching music because I'm not qualified in music. And then about a year into this job that I currently do for the last 7, 8 years, I was kind of going, "This is brilliant. This is a great job." But I'm an electrician. I'm not qualified for this job. So then I got in contact with Kathleen Turner, who you spoke with, and UL and Mihala Sulawan out in the Irish World Academy, and just explain my situation. That I'm working in music. I don't have an undergrad. Is there? I hear you have this program out here called a Masters in Community Music. Would I be able for it? And fully thinking as well that it's going to be a no because how can you do a Masters without doing an undergrad? And then they took all the experience that I didn't even register as anything, as this really important thing, like the fact that I had, at that stage, I would have been in windings and toured, in the States and in Canada, over in Europe, released original albums and released stuff with my other band, Last Days of That Country, and done stuff for RTE and done all this stuff that I just did because that's music and that's what I did. And I kind of just stumbled from one thing to the other, kind of aimlessly. And then they were kind of going, God, this is great. Yeah, this is really good. Yeah, I mean, and then you're also working, teaching, doing all these things. I was like, yeah. They're like, well, okay, well, that's definitely, like we can take that experience. It's called relative experience. And they let me do my master's, which I completed 3 years ago, and was a complete surprise to me. Nearly killed me, but it was brilliant.
Fair play to you for doing that there. But of course, as you said, the 4 or 5 years of practical experience that you built up unknowns to yourself was probably worth more than 10 years of being an undergrad student in community music. Like,
yeah, well, it's a very interesting thing, community music, because when I first started, I didn't have a clue what it was, to be honest, yeah. And it's just this like really cool way of working, really cool way of educating people, and it's a really cool way of kind of bringing people out of themselves and kind of bringing people together as well. So it's a great course, and I'm delighted I did it. And I probably will, in a few years' time, when things settle down again, I probably will go back and study and do the PhD in it, because it's quite cool.
very good, very good.
You
mentioned Last Days of That Country there a while ago. Taking back to 2010, getting the chance to support Bob Dylan in Thomond Park.
That was cool.
That must have been pretty cool. Would that have been one of your first experiences on the big stage, more or less, as what we'd say?
Yeah, it would have been. I guess the previous year, 2009, I joined a band called Windings as well, and I was in Last Days with Rob, Gary, and Dave as well. So I was in two bands, and kind of like Windings we just got over to New York for the first time, and I was like, I had never been even like outside of Ireland playing music. Don't mind going over to New York playing a festival. And then there was this thing called Battle for Bob, which was a Battle of the Bands competition, which I don't normally like. I don't generally like Battle of the Bands, because I don't believe music is a sport. But I guess I draw the sport analogy all the time, that there's definitely parallels. But so yeah, we entered this competition to pretty much you had to be a Limerick band, and you all these gigs, and you voting, and if you got out to be the best, or what people like the most, you got to be support Bob Dylan in Thomond Park, which we did, and it was really cool. And it was a really cool day, actually, because there was loads of bands playing. It was like David Gray was playing, Alabama 3 were playing, C6 Steve was playing, and we opened up at I think it was about 2 o'clock in the day, but still it was cool. It was great seeing your name, or your band name, on a poster alongside Bob Dylan and all those other names. But it was a really cool thing.
And of course, then you mentioned Windings there. 4 years with Windings, and you get nominated for the Meteor Choice Awards in Dublin. That must have been that really must have been satisfying for you as a band, to know that all your hard work that you put in, because I know from you myself that you put in long hours and you've worked really hard together. But that must have been very satisfying to be nominated for something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really cool, because, I mean, obviously, the great thing about, especially the kind of music that I make, is that, you're generally not doing it for, the greater success of, being, whoever's famous right now. I don't even know. Because, it's not music that everyone would be into, but there are people that do like it. And there are people that, come out and listen to us, and, listen to the radio and stuff. And so that particular album was the first album that Windings did as the full band, because before that point, it was always, it was Steve's project, and different people helped him, and, played in certain things and toured certain things. But that was kind of when the band kind of settled to the 5 members it is right now. And, we were all writing together as a band, so I guess it was quite special for that reason, because it was 5 equal people feeding in to try and make something, and we got to actually record half of it over in Montreal because we were over doing a festival in Toronto, and we said, well, while we're here, we may as well go over here and record with this guy called Ephraim Manouk from a band called Godspeed You Black Emperor and Silver Mount Zion, and I'd be a big fan of those guys. So to meet him and work with him and see how he works, and we actually recorded in the same studio where Arcade Fire recorded their big album, or their kind of first album. And it was just really cool just to kind of be over in a different country and making music and stuff. And we weren't even thinking anything about Choice Prize or any kind of stuff or any of that kind of thing. We were just thinking about, let's make a album and let's see how much fun we can have doing it, and let's do it as well as we can. And then when we got nominated for the Choice, which was a complete surprise to the five of us anyway, it was just really cool because we got to do loads of cool things that we wouldn't normally get to do on an album run. And we didn't win, obviously, but that's okay. Seemingly, it was down between us and one other band, but of course, we would say that.
Yeah, you came a close second.
Close
And
second.
I remember going up there that night, and it was a jammed house, and the excitement was electric up there. Like, it must, for you on stage, what does that feel like for you on stage when you've got people roaring and shouting and screaming at you? And they literally were like that night, like, you know.
Yeah, it's there's nothing like playing music live, to be honest with you. Like, obviously that's one of the big things I miss with this whole pandemic thing at the minute, is actually playing music with your bandmates. We actually got to play a live stream that Dolan's and a company called Nua put on there for we did the first one last Saturday, and it was the first time in 4 months that the five of us had been in a room playing together.
What's out of sight? Had it on and everything. We turn it close like a crutch. Oh God, hope it's nothing. We've done some stupid things. Only some of them are serious. On any other day, I take you to my grave, crying, crying. Thank you.
And it was just great because there's nothing like actually just playing music and kind of just, like, for us it's very much like, and for any band I'm in or any music I'm in, we kind of try and whatever music we're not looking to kind of, how do I put it? As long as the five of us are happy with what's been played, deadly. And if other people like it, that's even better. So then when you're in somewhere like Vicar Street and it's pretty much sold out and you're in there and people are kind of, going for you, it's deadly. Like, it's the same as, like being at a match and hearing people calling you and saying, "One, hey," and it's just great. It's just a lovely feeling. It's nice to feel that something that you make, people find a connection to it. That's a cool thing.
Of course, I suppose when, as a music artist, you have to feed off the crowd. Like, so, I mean, people either are into you or they're not. But
yeah, for sure.
As you say, if you've got a packed house in Dolan's, they're there to hear you, which is a good thing. Like,
yeah, that's cool.
Talk to me It is a good thing. Yeah. Talk to me about Music Generation.
Music Generation are pretty much a music education partnership. U2 kind of put out the initial money for it, so they're kind of essentially our bosses in a really roundabout way. And it's just pretty much music education for all young people. And so I work for Music Generation in Limerick City. And we go around to schools, we go around to different education settings and after school stuff and just teach kids music and as best we can.
Very good. And I mean, when you look at down through the years, Limerick is not the biggest city in Ireland, but I mean, musically, it has to be one of the biggest cities in Ireland. When you think of some of the bands down through the years, I mean, you've got the Supermodel Twins, the Hitchers, Foxjaw, I mean, the DeLorean Suite, the Last Days of Death Country, Windings, Denise Chyla, the Russigana family. The music talent is unbelievable in Limerick at the moment.
I don't know if we probably have the most bands, but I think we definitely punch above our weight in Limerick. And I mean, there's great. It always comes in cycles, and we're in a very good cycle right now. Some great people doing really cool stuff, and a lot of variety. I think that's the cool thing about Limerick, that there's generally a very good bit of variety in what's going on. So there really literally is something for everyone, and they all do it at such a kind of high level, and they all really care about it, and they all really believe in what they're doing. So I think that's kind of, I think Limerick punches above its weight musically.
Brilliant, brilliant. Back in 2017/2018, you released with KingPallas yourself. You released The Date. It was a critically acclaimed song. Critically acclaimed, and I mean, it got some rave reviews between papers and media. But we'll say a lot of people would have said it was a kind of a dark song. When you're writing a song, I mean, is that your personality coming out through you, or what way would you explain it to people when you're writing a song?
Yeah, it's pretty much the question I often get asked is, Pat, why don't you write a happy song? The answer is there's loads of happy songs. I just don't happen to write any, and I'm not a particularly sad person. I guess I put that negativity, or that, I won't say negativity, that side of my persona there, and it's a nice place to put it, because it's a song, like, and you get to, rather than going around with this thing in your head, it's there, it's over in this song, and you get to sing it. And so then, rather than carrying around that mood with you, or that feeling, it's kind of been taken away. It's up on the shelf there, or on a CD there, and it's kind of going, yeah, that's what that is. That's that annoying thing. And The Dead definitely isn't like, probably how it sounds musically probably is quite heavy, but maybe even the lyrics are quite heavy as well, but it's not meant to be. It's actually meant to be quite a positive thing. But people hear
yeah, and of course the following January, it got Limerick Song of the Year.
Yeah, Limerick Song of the Year, and that was a surprise, all right. Yeah, it was cool. It's nice to be kind of get a little bit of a nod, like. But I mean, it's not why you do it, like. I mean, but it's great, obviously, and it's lovely to people say, "Hey, you're doing a cool thing." I'm gonna go, "Cool, thanks. I thought I was." Right.
So talk to me, Didnt, about, we'll say, KingPallas has, of course, this is a highly anticipated 4-track EP being released next Friday, 3rd of July. Everyone download it or donate to it, whichever. But talk to me about KingPallas. What was going into your head? Did you always want to do something, a kind of a side project yourself?
I guess before joining Windings, I was generally a primary songwriter in whatever I was doing. And when I joined Windings, I took up a very different role. I took up keyboards, which I wasn't a player. I didn't play them, but I learned as I did. I was a guitar player. I don't generally play guitar in Windings. I play a couple of bits and pieces, but not much really. And I do backing vocals, whereas before I would generally have been one of the main singers. And it was kind of a cool thing, to be honest with you. It was a nice, it's like, you're kind of playing a different position. And it's a very fun position to be playing, because you're kind of, it's kind of, you're kind of all pulling together. And then I guess I didn't expect maybe to kind of stop. I mean, I never stopped writing music, but I didn't expect to stop releasing music. And a buddy of mine, Marty Ryan, who's in a band called Anna's Anchor. I was like, why aren't you making music anymore? I was like, yeah, I have a few bits and pieces here and there. And he goes, but why aren't you releasing anything? I was like, sure, there's loads of music, that's grand. And then like the lads in Windings are always going, well, why aren't you releasing music? Why aren't you doing music? I just wasn't bothered. I was really enjoying myself in Windings. And I had been doing like a couple of theatre things. So I had like, done music for 2 shows, in 3 shows actually, in between, not doing stuff. But I guess, that was just at a play or whatever. 4 shows actually. It was 4 shows. Sorry, I'm just counting in my head. I forget most of the things I do. And I guess that's what I was doing, and I just wasn't bothered, to be honest with you. And then Marty kind of was like, come on, do something. I'll even play bass for you. And I was like, whatever. And he goes, look, I'm releasing an album in 6 months' time. You're the support act. Don't know what you're called, but you're going to play. I said, all right, yeah, cool. And he goes, but the only thing is, you have to have a song out before we do the album launch. I didn't, by the way. I didn't have the song out. I had nothing recorded. I think I probably did a set about 2 weeks before doing the gig, because Marty goes, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. There's nothing there. There isn't even a Twitter page. What's going on? And I guess, yeah, I mean, like I say, I just was I don't know why I was hesitant. I was just very hesitant in doing it. And then I started it, probably 2018. I released The Dead, January or February 2019. And I did another song then that I recorded literally outside that window in my garden, with Steve, in the following, let's say, I think maybe the following June or July, and just very, very low key. And then I kind of was like, right, I kind of should put a band together. And then I got booked to play the Clonakilty International Guitar Festival below in Clonakilty, obviously. And I was kind of going, I'd love harp, I'd love piano. So I know a lady called Jean Wallace for years. I said, Jean, would you do that for me? She goes, I will. She was delighted to do it. And then Brien from Windings, I said, would you play drums for me? And he goes, yeah, I'll play drums to you. And Marty obviously had offered his bass skills. So Marty was in. And then Steve had worked on me with The Dead and worked on me with Concerning Lists, the other one that I had done. And so, yeah, that was the band. It was a 5-piece band. And they all gave me their time. And I had these songs that I knew how they worked, but they had no idea how they worked, and I was very bad at explaining how to kind of say what I wanted, because I guess I hadn't been the main person in a band or the boss of a band in nearly 9 years. Because when I released The Dead, it had been 9 years since I released my own music, as in my own kind of, I'm at the front. Obviously, I've been recording and releasing stuff with Windings all the time. But that was a weird one, kind of going, wow, I haven't actually put anything out in nearly a decade. So it was cool doing that. And then obviously we recorded 3 more songs then with Micheál Keaton out in Kilcolman, which was actually quite a big deal for me, because I really wanted to record in West Limerick if I could. And because I'm from West Limerick, obviously. And Micheál and our Pigeons did it and did a great job. And so, yeah, that next Friday, we're putting it out on the most, obviously, best way of doing it, on cassette and obviously online as well. But
you're going back old school.
People like things.
People like things, of course do. Yeah, it's a lot of people have anyone that has heard bits and pieces of KingPallas have said to me how different it is from your Windings genre of music, and it seems to be something that you're very comfortable with.
I guess, yeah, it's just like that's what it sounds like right now. It'll probably change again next time I do more stuff. Like I have other songs and they don't sound like those songs. But yeah, it's nice. It's just folk music, just like kind of moody folk music.
Yeah, no, in fairness, you released your single Home there a few days ago, and it's getting a lot of hits on YouTube. Anybody can check it out under KingPallas Facebook page or the YouTube page KingPallas. But fair play to Pa. Pa, if you could go back in time and talk to a 12-year-old Patrick O'Brien, what advice would you give him?
Don't worry about your stutter. You'll be grand. That's literally it.
And anybody that's stressing out through leaving certain an education now, and that, like you said, was kind of cornered into doing something else apart from music at an early age, what advice would you give to them?
I'll give them 2 pieces of advice. 1, I'm going to give them 3 pieces of advice. I might even give them more. My first piece of advice is this. There is no straight road to get wherever you want to go. You'll do lots of annoying things, but you'll get there if you want to get there, or if you're willing to work for it anyway. Like I have a master's, I have no undergrad. There's a potential to do a PhD, I have no undergrad. It's, and also, if you think you don't like something, and if you believe to yourself you don't like it, maybe you don't like it, and maybe don't waste 10 years doing something that you don't like.
Brilliant.
As I say, trust your gut.
Exactly, trust your gut. Patrick, it's been a pleasure having a chat with you on the Weekend Mix this week. I want to wish you, of course, you've 11 years under your belt now of windings, so you must be doing something right. I want to wish you the best of luck with that. And of course, with KingPallas, I want to wish you all the best, because it's really enjoyable music listening to you back in the front row again. As you said, a different position on the field, but something you're back enjoying.
I was in the midfield there for the last while. I'm striker now.
Listen, Patrick, thank you very much.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Thanks a million.
I wanna go home. I can't stay here anymore. I wanna go home. I can't see what I am for. I wanna go home. I can't stay here anymore. I wanna go home. This is not what I was meant for. This is not what I started for. Now I wanna go home. I can't stay here anymore. Please let me go home. I can't sleep here anymore. I wanna go home. I can't stay here anymore. I wanna go home. This is not what I was meant for. This is not what I started for. Now I wanna go home. I can't sleep here anymore. Please let me go home. I can't see what I am for. Please let me go home. I can't stay here anymore. I wanna go home. This is not what I started for, but I can't see this anymore. Please let me go home. This is not what I was meant for. This is not what I started for. Oh, I wanna go home. I can't sleep anymore. I wanna go home. I wanna go home. I can't sleep anymore. I wanna go home. I wanna go home. I wanna go home. I wanna go home. home.